All right, everybody, welcome to an end of month special edition of Teach Crypto. Guys, hit that like, hit that subscribe bell notification. Help us reach 2,000 super chats. And the store are open. Mr. FOMO, a lot of doom and gloom in the crypto market, but we're here to keep you guys with a smile on your face because good times are eventually coming. The question is when. And so the title of the show is Bull or Bear Market. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's still a bull market. However, we might be in a mini bear. And that's what most shows, almost all shows, are not going to want to tell you. They're going to want to tell you great news that tomorrow we're going back to 74K and that this summer is going to be an amazing summer. And I do think that the end of the summer and fall will be extremely fun and there'll be some fireworks. But as of right now, we got to keep it honest. Things don't look great for this week as of right now. And, into May, we were not anticipating a great May. Now, ETH ETF has not been killed. So we did think there was going to be a sell-off in May, but maybe later in May. The reality is the sell-off started kind of early in March, about a month before we were expecting it to. And we're now 5.5 weeks into negative price action below 74K. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of people, I would say 99% of people, didn't see this major dip coming so soon, right? You talked about the Halloween indicator in May and June, but this came in March, and that's what's really caught people off guard.
Yeah, normally you get the Halloween indicator when people are doing their taxes, April, May. This started much earlier than that, and you can attribute that to the bull market getting going a little bit earlier. We reached a new all-time high before the halving, and so that is a little bit of what we're seeing. And also that was all spurred on by the ETF news. And so, it's frustrating that the market has been moving sideways or negative for the last 5 weeks, but it's also a good opportunity. I keep saying this over and over again. The more that Bitcoin and the market take a knee, the more opportunities you have to pick up the projects that you like, and the more opportunity you have to pick up more cheap Satoshis. If you think the bull market is going where we think it's going, and that's still somewhere near 150K, it's hard to be upset with these kinds of weeks or these kinds of months because you have opportunities here, right? You have opportunities to get things like Muse down in the 15s, and there was even in the 14s. And we think projects like that with tiny market caps will probably run pretty well once the bull market gets going. But I would attribute this just to being, Bitcoin is very young as far as an asset class is concerned, and it's still trying to find its footing. It still doesn't look anything like a normal market. And so when it does these types of things, this is to be expected. It's still trying to find more, solid ground to be on. But the normal market is not as predictable as Bitcoin still. When you look at Bitcoin and you look at the cycles, you can still pretty much see where you should buy and where you shouldn't.
As they say, zoom out a year ago, you could have gotten Bitcoin at 24K, late April, early May, right? And so now I look at this and, not everyone can hold for a year, but I'm telling you, you buy today at 62 and you hold for a year, you're going to be very, very happy. All right. I'm pretty strong conviction that a year from now, we're going to be over 100K. Now, here's the thing. A year from now, we might be close to the end of the bull run. You might say, wait a minute, we're in a mini bear and into the bull run already in a year. Yeah, these things don't last too long. So you just want to be careful, right? Because one of the scenarios I have is, remember last cycle, we had a double top, started out in April, and then it did it again in early November. And so 2025 is probably going to be the end of the bull run, most likely. And this is an example of you don't know when, so you always have to take profits, right? We really were thinking some type of major dip, 20 to 25 to maybe 30% was going to happen before May or right around May. Well, it happened in March, right? So when we're telling you we think the bull market's going to be over in April or November of 2025, the reality is we don't know and you don't know. And that's why you constantly have to be taking profits, because this is just a mini bear. Imagine being in some of these projects during a full bear, and we know the experience. It's not fun because it starts off as a friendly bear, and then it escalates into a very violent bear about a year and a half into the situation. And so you don't want to be caught in altcoins after the music stops running. And again, if you're constantly taking profits, it's not a problem, right? But if you don't, you never make any money. That's the reality. No show wants to tell you that, but it is the reality. Going to the moon is great if you were able to buy coins about a year before the halving and you had the conviction and you were able to dump a significant amount of money. You know, you've seen some already 10, 20, 30 X's, but how that's not the way most people are going to experience it. There's this 100X. Yeah, you might get 100X, but it's not as common and people want you to believe. Okay, we're here to tell you the truth. The reality is take the 2X, take the 3X, take the 50%, take the 60%, take the 70%. Sometimes you got to be happy and take the 40%. And that's the reality.
And depending on how much you put in, that could be a sizable amount, you know, depending on what you initially started with. But you know, there's a lot going on in, you know, in the world right now. The macro environment is pretty terrible, with two major wars going on, more uncertainty on other continents. And so, you know, people aren't desperate to get themselves into risk on assets, and that's what Bitcoin is a risk on asset. And so that makes
For some people
even more riskier for your normal retail investor. And so I don't think you see the normal retail investor pouring back in the way that you will once the macro cleans up, or once we get a little bit further into the year and people have a little bit more time to accumulate. But I also think that the Halloween indicator, I was talking to a friend who's a CFP. He says that, you know, April, May, June, people are tax harvesting, which seemed weird to me, but it's while it's on their minds, when they've done their taxes and it's fresh on their minds, they're doing their tax harvesting to make sure that they're for next year. And so this time of year, maybe later in the year, at the end of the year, you're going to see people taking major tax harvesting, either profits or losses, to make sure that they can get cleaned up for their taxes. So, you know, he said this is not abnormal for any market, and especially risky markets like this one.
Like you said, it just started about 4.5 weeks earlier than we expected. Now, here's the thing. This is actually pretty healthy, as long as we don't do something crazy and go to 50K, which I don't think would happen. Now, if it did happen, that's like absolute worst case scenario. I would imagine it would be a pretty good bounce, right? And it would be a fierce bounce. So I'm looking at holding 60. Now, if we got to 58, 57, it wouldn't be insanely horrible, because, you know, if you have been waiting to get into alts, my goodness, I'll tell you one right now. I'm looking at Injective right now, holding at 25. It's been holding strong at 25. If we had a crazy dip into the 50s and you could get Injective in the 2019, it'd be hard for me to stay on the sidelines. So there's a lot. You talked about Muse. Imagine getting Muse back into the 11 area, Mr. FOMO. And because not only would you be getting a great price, you would not be waiting very long for a significant profit. So here's the thing. If you have been patient, I would say the strategy now is a DCA. Now, we could recover during May, right? Because this is the beginning of a bull run. And so if you remember, if you were here last cycle, there was a extended mini bear, right? During the double halving, where you had May, June, and half July before recovery started mid to late July. So I don't know if that I still, and I really could be looking like an idiot here. I don't think we're going to be completely red in May and June and early July like we have been mid-March and all of April. I still think there's a recovery here. After, you want to be careful, because we could have a recovery in the next couple weeks and then dip back and then recover late summer, fall. I would be shocked if fall was bad. I would be shocked if we had a bad September, October leading into the end of the year. Now, I do think end of the year, again, early, you'll see another dip, okay? And then probably some type of blow off sometime in 2025. And I anticipate that now will be well over 100K. Can't tell you exactly how much. We're not going to 500, 400K, guys. I would love it. It's just not going to happen unless something insane happens. You got nation states dumping into Bitcoin. Honestly, I think that's happening sometime in 2028. I think it's too early. Now, there's good and bad, right? It sucks to think there will be another full bear market, but imagine the accumulation. If you're taking profits in this bull run, the accumulation, and I know you think this is crazy. I do think Bitcoin has a potential to reach over $500,000 in the next cycle, and I'm going to stick to that. Remember at 24, when I was telling you we were going to be in the 70s, in the spring, you were looking at me like I was crazy last year. So, listen, not that far away. We're not getting there tomorrow, however, and I think that's important to realize that.
Yeah, and I don't think we're getting there tomorrow either. I have a little bit more of a doom and gloom view of the summer months. The summer months have, at least in my view, never been great for Bitcoin. You do have anomalies like after the halving events, but I feel like we're setting ourselves up for at least a sideways summer. But by July, at the very latest, I could see us just exploding.
But here's the thing. When it starts going sideways, alts will start to recover. I'm going to refresh you back to the mini bear at the end of before the end of the last bull run. Eagled, as Bitcoin was struggling, all of a sudden in 3 days in June, Eagle 2x'd. And then you saw some other altcoins slowly, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden in July, second week, boom, Bitcoin recovered. So we want to warn our viewers, if you are in these alts, you might be able to take profits before Bitcoin even recovers if you're on the right horse, especially if you're a low market cap, right? It's not insane to think that we're going to be sitting at 60K 3 weeks from now. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Muse makes a run to 20. Or in June, Muse makes a run to 24, 25. That's on the table. It's not insane to think that iOS network, one of the ones I talked about all the time, makes a run at $1 in the summer. Just because Bitcoin is not going crazy doesn't mean the alts will not decide, you know what, we're going to start the party a little bit early. So it's not as easy as everyone makes it out to be. But again, I do think Bitcoin will easily get above 90K by December. Obviously, if I'm wrong, it looks horrible for me and the show, but I really do. I believe that.
I think you're going to be fine on that prediction.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's outlandish. Anyone telling you 300K, 400K, 500K, unfortunately, they're trying to get clicks. They're trying to get viewers, and you just want to be realistic, right? Okay. So if you want to take profits at 90K, nothing wrong with that. If you want to take profits at 80K, nothing wrong with that. Honestly.
Well, I think the way that Bitcoin moves and the way that it's already shown itself to move this year, you're going to want to take profits periodically. If we get a pump this summer, take some profits. If we get a pump in the fall, take profits, especially if you're in the altcoins. The altcoins, you have to be ready on a hair trigger. You have to be ready on a moment's notice to take profits. But Bitcoin moves a little bit slower because it's a bigger asset. And but that doesn't mean that you have to hang on to it all the way to 150K. If you see it get to a major psychological level like 90 or 100K, and you think that we're going to have a pullback, or you see the macro in the market is looking bad, looks like we're on the verge of another war, then obviously, reach into your bag, take some profits, protect your money.
I guarantee you in August, we'll be doing a show and there'll be viewers in the chat saying, man, I wish I bought in April, May, and June because things will be looking much better. So this is the boring time, but this is the time where you actually set yourself up for success, right? In sports, You can't just show up to the game. You got to lift the weights. You got to practice. You got to eat the right way. Well, this is kind of the crypto version right now. Now, if you already have all your money in, you know what you do? You wait. If you can DCA a little bit, do it, but you're patient. Don't sell your ETH. Don't sell your Bitcoin. Don't sell your Solana right now if you're in those assets. Unless you absolutely have to live, that's a whole different situation. But this is not the time to sell because you're selling at the wrong time. You're not going to want to sell when things are red. You're going to sell when things are green. In green for you, and you have to make a decision that's whatever comfortable for you. Because if you're just going to hold and wait for the music to stop sometime in 2025, the reality is, yes, it was fun and it was entertaining, but have you helped yourself, you and your family? Probably not. And again, if you're going to hold on Bitcoin till 2028, 2032, 2036, then you're going to do amazing. And if you lived great health and you live that long, God bless you. You're going to be fine. But a lot of people are going to trade this thing over the next several months and years. So that's why you got to keep it here. Really quickly on Voyager, the checks that were uncashed, that period is over. So they have an exact amount of money right now. We should probably put that in the title. And so the Voyager money is going to be coming sooner rather than later. We don't have a date, but I'm anticipating, Mr. FOMO, this can get done in the next 3 to 5 to 6 weeks. So June would be a good indicator. Now, the good news is, because we're probably getting this money in June, if the bear market is still happening, guess what you can do? If you too please, for entertainment only, you can use our show and your knowledge to reinvest. And let's say you're getting 2,000, whatever. I'm just throwing it out. Let's say getting your $2,000 back from Voyager. Could be much more, could be much less. You can put that in an altcoin or Bitcoin or ETH, and that's going to be worth a lot more 6-9 years down the 6-9 months, excuse me, not year. Yes, years if you do Bitcoin, but there is a silver lining to this for the Voyager people, such like us, that we had this bear a little bit early and might be extended. I'm going to call it a mini bear, a tiny bear, that you may be able to use your Voyager funds to make them go further.
Yeah, I'm that to me is a great opportunity when that money starts to come in. I think if we are still in sort of this little summer lull, I won't even call it a mini bear, but if we're still in this little summer lull, that would be a great opportunity for all of us. We thought we were going to miss that opportunity and we were going to pay an opportunity cost for being with Voyager, but it looks like the market is going to take a knee for us, fingers crossed, and give us the opportunity to reinvest that money. So hopefully that money comes sooner rather than later. But like you said, the people who got checks or who were supposed to get checks and never cashed them, that money has been absorbed back into the account. Wow. And so they do have a finalized amount that they should be ready to send out. So hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. If the finalized amount is set, then checks should be able to start flowing.
Go to Invest Voyager, double check to make sure, like I said, your address is correct. And Paul, get those in by June 1st if you can. That would be very, very helpful. I'm just throwing out a scenario. Injective is at 20, Mr. FOMO, in late May, early June. If this mini bear is still going on, you put 2,000 in. I really predict Injective will go over 100. Now you've taken your 2,000 and it's worth 8K. That's just one example. One example.
Absolutely.
Right? And so there is a huge opportunity. Keep it locked in here. Please share. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Help us out. We really appreciate all of you. You guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon.
See you.